I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. You can try to save yourself, but you only go.
What's going on, guys? JCam back on another video, and today we're going to be looking at the two conference championship games in the NFL playoffs, the NFC and AFC championships. We had the Eagles versus the Commanders and the Chiefs versus the Bills. And before we get into it, please make sure to like the video, comment down below anything that you agree or disagree with on any of my takes, and make sure to subscribe to the channel to make sure to keep up with future NFL content, whether it's free agency, the NFL draft, the combine, the NFL playoffs, come up with the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. So jumping into this game, we had the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Commanders. In this game, I actually ended up picking Commanders for some reason. In my gut, I was hoping that the Commanders would win. In my head, I kind of thought the Eagles would, but in a miraculous way, the Commanders being able to make it to the NFC Championship is pretty wild. Jayden Daniels had one of the best rookie seasons of all time. But as you can see here, it was pretty much a lopsided game. The Eagles had 55 points, which is some of the most that was put up all NFL season, with the Commanders only have 23. Before the game happened, when I made my predictions last week, I said if they can limit Saquon and the Commanders could score above 35 points, then they could win this game. Because if you look at most of the Commanders' wins, they were all pretty much above 35 points when they had to do it. Their defense does not really give them any favors, which is weird with Dan Quinn being the head coach. They definitely have to do something in the offseason to boost that defense, whether it's in the draft or in free agency. But looking at these stats, the Eagles pretty much did whatever they wanted. They rushed for 229 yards compared to 100 yards of Commanders. If you're pretty much doing that, Saquon's going to go off. The first play of the game, he had a 60-yard rush for a touchdown, and there was 6 touchdowns combined rushing just from Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. And for the team, they had 7 rushing touchdowns. That is crazy. That is wild stuff. If a team's gonna get 7 rushing touchdowns on you and 8 touchdowns total, they're gonna win the football game no matter what they do. Giving credit here to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has been struggling a little bit in the playoffs, but he ended up having a really good game. He went 20 for 28, 250 yards basically, and a touchdown. He was only sacked twice. There was a little bit of concerns because Cam Jurgens was out on the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, but Jalen Hurts was able to pretty much step in and have his best game that he's had in weeks of this NFL season. Towards the end of the year, he was kind of struggling, and then most of this playoffs, the first 2 games, he kind of struggled as well. But he was able to put it together and had a really nice game that really led this Eagles offense to be able to do whatever they want against the Commanders. Jayden Daniels was able to, he did a pretty nice game. He was definitely pressured a lot, and a lot of his throws were kind of off. It was a little bit of a rookie quarterback in an NFC Championship game. There's going to be a little bit of nerves. He was sacked 3 times. He did add a lot to the rushing, but the Commanders' rushing attack just wasn't as good or just not there as it was last week. Against the Lions, they had over 100 and some yards in their rushing attack, which isn't a normal thing for the Commanders. But if they were able to do that, they kind of controlled the game last week. This week, Brian Robinson could not do that whatsoever. He only had 30 yards. And they really could not run the ball against this Philadelphia team. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis really was able to stop the run up the middle, and then Nolan Smith was able to get a lot of pressure on Jayden Daniels, which really led to them just not being able to get their rushing attack going. And then Will Shipley was even able to get 4 carries for 77 yards and a touchdown, averaging 20 yards on the ground. So this just shows Commanders defense that didn't give them any help. But the biggest story of this game, that's pretty much been every Philadelphia Eagles game this postseason, was the turnovers. As you can see, the Philadelphia Eagles didn't turn the ball over once. But if you're looking at the Commanders, they had 4 turnovers, 3 fumble losses. The Philadelphia Eagles have done a great job of punching the ball out. And whenever they're punching the ball out constantly and getting these turnovers, they're really hard to beat, especially with their run attack and how they're able to kind of control the game and the clock. With 2 of those being on special teams and Damani Brown getting a 10-yard completion, but just losing the ball completely, it put the Commanders in a terrible spot where they're playing keep up. And with the Commanders are trying to play keep up, they did have a pretty good chance of cutting it, but every single time they would try to cut the lead to a 1-score game, so one of these fumbles would happen that would just derail them and put them back down by multiple possessions. Same thing with this interception down here by Jane Daniels. That was later in the game when they were trying to do too much. So it's kind of a garbage time interception. But the fumbles were really what killed this team. Because every single time the Commanders would have an amazing long drive against the Eagles, they would put up multiple points. They would cut it to like a one score, 8 point lead. And then either Eckler would fumble or a special teams fumble would just kill them immediately and put the Eagles back up by 2 touchdowns. So looking at the D line a little bit here, Nolan Smith had a great game. He was able to get a lot of pressures on Jaden Daniels. He had a sack, he had a tackle for a loss, and he ended up having 4 tackles. Zach Bond also had a great game. He had 12 total tackles. He was able to play a little bit in the run defense and in pass coverage a lot on Zach Ertz. And the Eagles kind of played a defense where it was just like, you're not going to beat us over top. Zach Ertz can have everything that he wants down below for like 5 and 6 yards, as you can see with his 11 receptions for 100 yards. But we're not going to let you beat us over top. Terry's not going to get anything, and you're just not going to beat us like last time with was Zacchaeus was actually the main receiver when they beat the Eagles later in the regular season. But this Eagles team is definitely rolling with their defense. If their defense can play like this, they definitely have a shot in the Super Bowl with whoever's coming out of the AFC. And Saquon Barkley is just going to have to carry him offensively, pretty much just getting 200 yards a game and multiple touchdowns. So that's pretty much the take on this Eagles game. Hopefully, they can play well in the Super Bowl and end up bringing it home with Saquon in that defense. Moving on to the next game. Moving on to the next one, we have the Kansas City Chiefs against the Buffalo Bills in the AFC Championship. And this game, Kansas City Chiefs pretty much just sealed the game out, winning 32-29. In this one, both quarterbacks played amazing, as you would think. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes ended up playing great. The only thing I could say about it really is that the Bills kind of looked slow starting out. They kind of looked nervous, almost like they were kind of just scared to be able to play in this game at first. They had to settle in. The Chiefs came out straight hot and they forced Buffalo into a 3-and-out and went down and scored immediately on their first drive. Um, both quarterbacks looked like how they should. It was pretty much a heavyweight Tom Brady, Peyton Manning type of matchup in this game. The Bills kind of didn't really lean on their rushing attack that they've gotten going the last 2 weeks in that first half. James Cook only had 4 carries, and they didn't really run the ball much in the first half. And it really took until that second half where they started to get more carries. James Cook at 9, and they kind of let James Cook started to kind of go off, and they actually ended up with more rushing yards, but Patrick Mahomes just kind of did his thing, and he ended up being the big impact of it. The Bills really couldn't get a stop on offense in the second half. And the Bills, whenever they would get a stop, Josh Allen would kind of struggle and they wouldn't really score many points. And especially came down to that final drive. The Chiefs went down, got the field goal to be able to take the lead. And Josh Allen, I didn't really like the call by Joe Brady on that 3rd and 10. I know you're playing, you know that you're gonna go for it on 4th down, but to run a screen pass right there, it kind of got out a little bit weird, and the timing of it wasn't very good. And they only gained 5 yards on it and created that 4th and 5. I did like the mesh concept that they ran on the 4th down. I thought that they would do that. But that corner edge, that corner blitz coming off, no one was able to account for it since they were in an empty set and they only had 5 linemen blocking, no tackles really looking out for the corner. So Spags brings it at a perfect time to be able to get that pressure on Josh Allen, and Kincaid, young tight end, pretty much just drops the ball in a situation where it really should have been caught. And it was pretty much just the Chiefs kind of using their championship DNA to go out and make plays like they should. You have a rookie like Worthy that actually played an amazing game. Juju had a huge impact. He had 2 30-yard bombs, and that set them up pretty well. A lot of these, it was mostly the Bills just leaving stuff out there on plays that they need to execute on, like that 4th and 5 where that Kincaid drops, like that 4th and short where they ran the QB sneak and Josh Allen ends up being short and doesn't make the 1st down or line of gain. They really had to execute on those plays, and most championship teams are going to execute those no problem. And they came out and struggled and didn't get it done. And it led to the Kansas City Chiefs being able to have more opportunities to where they can go out, execute those plays, and now they're back in the Super Bowl for the 3rd straight year. Travis Kelce didn't really have that big a game. Worthy was a huge impact. Juju on the Buffalo Bills side, they had like a Gabe Davis type of performance from Matt Collins. He did a great job. And as you can see here with the fumbles, Mahomes did lose one, but the Bills ended up fumbling 4 times, although they didn't really lose any of them. It really just came down to the Bills not making plays to be able to win the game and win the championship. And the Chiefs used their championship DNA of I've been here before, I've done this, and we're confident in ourselves to be able to go out and make the right play to be able to move us on to the Super Bowl. So in Super Bowl 59, we're going to have the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles. This matchup happened 2 years ago, and the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be going for the three-peat. Are the Eagles going to be able to use Saquon and run against that Kansas City Chiefs defense that's been playing very well? We'll have to see when it comes in about 2 weeks, but please make sure to like the video, subscribe down below for any future NFL content to be able to keep up with the channel, and thank you for watching.
Yeah, feel like John Moran, need a triple-double, told him check the stats, yeah, I got a couple, I don't drop the ball, now I never fumble, I'm the MVP, now I feel like Russell, feel like John Moran, need a